listening to the Punisher Waterfowls, the Union 0430 podcast. Brought to you by Real Geese Decoys, the most technological advanced silhouette decoys on the market. And Vortex Canada, the force of optics.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Union 0430 episode 107. We've got Scott coming to us from Ohio. He's just worn too many hats, so I don't even know what to say where he works for. So right now he's with Tetra. You can see from his shirt. So Tetra Hearing Protection. We're going to dive in, talk a lot about that, as well as all the other hats that Scott's worn. And we've got our good friend Bobby Hayes from Ducklander Calls. He's facilitating once again. Thanks, Bobby, for bringing on some awesome guests, because we're just lonely old Canadian boys and we can't bring the big names in. So we got to go begging Bobby to do our bidding for us. So really appreciate it, Bobby.
No problem.
We got Phil coming to us outside of Port Perry, Ontario, Dave up in Kincardine, Ryan's down in Nova Scotia, and I am just outside Kingston, Ontario. So here we are, fellas. I don't even know where to start with this because we've been a good 20 minutes trying to get audio and video sorted out, talking about this, talking about that. So you know what? We're going to just dive right into it. Right off the bat, Tetra Hearing been operating for, this is the stat, this is what I read today. Tetra Hearing, 3 years have been started. 20,000 ears have been protected by Tetra Hearing. And the reason why I think this is something that I want to talk about is because 10 years ago, I don't think anybody cared about their hearing. I know.
No, in fact, it was one of those things where it was almost, I hate to say it was frowned upon, but it was one of those things where you felt like a pussy if you put something in your ear. You know,
Big
I know
time.
I was that.
Yeah.
You know, I was. So the technology has grown to the point where there's no excuse not to have the protection. It actually makes so.
I know Ryan and I were out west a couple years ago hunting out in Saskatchewan, and I got rang pretty hard. You remember that, Ryan? And after that, I had to, like, now I've got to wear it all the time now. So I was wearing these big old Pelotor muffs, right?
Yep,
And they work, and it was awesome, and I didn't mind wearing them. But when I was getting, like, if someone took a picture and it was going up on social or anything like this, here I am, like this goofy dude with these big old muffs on. I'm like, man, I don't look cool at all wearing these things. Come on.
Did any of your parents ever put hearing protection on you to shoot a gun?
Never.
No, I never did. Now my girl has never shot a gun without hearing protection.
Yeah.
Correct.
But
yeah.
And for Tetra is trying to make hearing protection like the seatbelt, right? So
yeah.
My grandpa, my dad, they hardly ever wear it. I never get in the truck without it. My kids don't even know that it's an option not to put it on. And so that's really what Tetra was started with two audiologists, and their whole perception is hunters need to have something in their ears to protect them, but they don't want to take the whole experience. So, you know, always before it was a trade-off. You put something in your ear, you put the big muffs on, whatever it is, and now you can't hear your call as well. You can't hear the ducks. You can't hear your buddy talking. And when Tetra came out with the technology to be able to amplify what the frequencies that you want within that pursuit, you're actually, I don't want to say becoming bionic, but you're improving yourself. And Bobby can attest to it. It hadn't heard in years. And that's
$1 million man.
So I don't hear wings anymore. Like, I can hear divers if they come through, like blackjacks, but like a mallard behind me, I can't hear the wings anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
no.
So Scott, Bobby told me, like, with the technology that you guys got now, like, you can dial in to the point where, listen, I want to be able to hear that turkey in the next field over as he's gobbling, and you can dial that in so that you can hear that with this new technology, correct?
Yeah. So how I mean, it's literally, think of it as like us having a huge mixing board, right? So we're processing thousands of frequencies at a time. So we're going through, depending on your pursuit. So we call them STOs, but it's, you know, if you're a waterfowl program, if it's a turkey program, whatever, it's listening for that waterfowl sound and amplifying that. Okay. But you don't want to hear the wind. You don't want to hear other, what we call white noise amplified at the mouth. So that is decreased or kept closer to your normal level of hearing. But then the device is programmed for any hearing loss. Like you said, that when you got barrel blasted or, you know, ringing in your ears, you've had some hearing loss. We have you take a hearing test. We program the device for your hearing loss. Then we put the program on top of it. So you're hearing whatever your STO is louder than anything else. But then when the gun goes off, any sound over 90 decibels is compressed down to 80. So if the gun goes off, it sounds like it's about a quarter mile away, but you can still hear Bobby making fun of you at the end for missing. Like, it's literally that type of technology. But you can dial it in. So when I sat down with Bobby, you know, I said, all right, what don't you like? Well, the lows on the goose call weren't right for him. So literally just jump on the laptop with them still in his ears and just tweak them right there. Done.
Wow.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Like I had a clay shooter a couple of weeks ago who said, man, these things are awesome. I can hear the spring loading on the thrower. I can do everything I want, but the backup beeper on the golf cart is too loud for me. I went out to the golf cart, took a frequency reading on it, went in there, tuned it down. Now I didn't hear the backup beeper. So it's literally, I can do anything. You know, we can literally almost do anything that you want.
But you can't remove Bobby making fun of me when I miss.
No,
you can't remove that.
No.
Okay.
Can't move that miss. You're still gonna get it from him. Sorry.
You know what would be great is if you could like take the sounds of like just the mallards and just like the ducks you want to hit, but like get rid of the mergansers and the shepherds. Right?
Yeah.
But only make fun of you if you didn't shoot 3 times.
Yeah.
But so
that's worth 1, it's worth 3.
Yeah.
That's a really skinny outline of what the technology is. So for us, it's just protection. You know, protection's always guaranteed, but it's the enhancement that goes along with it.
So
it adds overall experience.
So like you're talking about how you programmed it for Bobby. Are these programmable by the end user, or do you have to kind of go to like a stock?
No. So it's got to be mailed back to, like, we physically have to have the devices. And so what I did was I just brought a programmer with me. So sometimes when I travel, I'll grab a programmer and then I can just play with them, you know, with guys like Bobby and things like that. If you were to order some and you wanted to get them reprogrammed, like either a different STO or, you know, something tweak, you would send them back to, we're in Franklin, Tennessee. And then you can actually be on the phone with the guy and he can do everything that you tell him, you know, say, hey, I want this louder, I want this quieter, whatever it is. And then they ship them back to you.
That's insane.
We keep the end user out of it, because if you play with it and blow your eardrums or something else out, you know, it's kind of like allowing somebody to play with the throttle on a race car. I mean, it's a little bit, maybe not. So,
yeah. Don't touch the red button. Don't touch the red button.
No. Scott comes out and hunts with us during the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby, so you've been wearing them, what, a year now?
I wore them some last season, and then I came to find out I have small ear holes. So they had to, right. So they had to
there's a fucking joke coming later on that, buddy.
Yeah. So they did a set of customs for me, so they were more comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But overall though, like, super impressed. Obviously, I know you, Bobby, so I know the type of guy you are. You wouldn't wear it if you didn't like it.
It takes some getting used to with the calling. But I think for like most guys, it wouldn't bother them. But I hear calls every day, right? So I'm probably a little more picky on it exactly than most people would be doing. Yeah. So, man, like I tell you, like the most interesting thing for me about it, because I don't know, I had this talk, Bill owns the company, and so I'm 45. So I just figure I'm not going to hear when I get older. Like I've hunted so much, shot so many guns, right? Like I figure that's part of life. But it interests me more if I can hear the ducks.
Right.
That interests me more than the protection does, which is probably a back-assed way to look at it. But if it helps me kill better, then that interests me more than anything. And the other thing that interests me more than that is, so I've got my 11-year-old girl started hunting last year. And before I met these guys, I'm sitting there going, I don't know how I put earplugs on her and also instruct her. Right.
Right.
Like when you go out with her, I don't shoot.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting by her and making sure she has a good experience and tell her when, she's super safe, but still she's 11.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's hard to tell them what to do wearing earplugs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like that, she will grow up in these, so she wouldn't know any different.
Yeah. And I think that's the key right there, is starting them at that where it just becomes second nature to them and they don't think no more about it, right?
And maybe that's overprotective. I don't know.
No, not at all. I don't think so. And go back to what Scott was saying, where Tetra wants hearing protection to be like a seatbelt, where it's just, you're going out, you're taking your gun while your ear pro is coming with you when you go out, right? So it just makes sense.
My left ear, which I didn't know that, but if you're a right-handed shooter, you go deaf in the left ear first.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's closer to the gun. Yeah.
I went and got my ears tested back in February because I already knew I was in trouble.
Right.
And I've got moderate hearing loss in my right ear, moderate severe in my left ear.
Yes, you're the same. I think I was about that when I Scott on the. Was I severe?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You're right on that borderline where it's like, so if you don't protect it now, like you're getting hearing aids within the next couple of years. I mean,
but I've also done an absolute pile of construction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like when I was 18, they used to put me in a manhole with a jackhammer.
Jesus.
With zero hearing protection. Never thought about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but here's the caveat to this.
Go ahead.
Oh, so
at the time of getting my, a lot of like.
There's like the problem with having 6 guys on, right?
We had a good old Canadian standoff. No, you go, please.
No, you go. No, you go.
Yeah.
No, you go.
Yeah. So when I had my ears tested, I got molds done because I've been looking at getting a set of ear protection made. I lack like the cup in the bottom of my ear.
Mm-hmm.
So to get molded earbuds done, the ladies like, yeah, like you're just not built for it. And like, you guys that watch the show, I'm constantly fiddling with the stupid earbuds to keep the damn things in. That's because of the lack of that cup. So now it's like, well, now I'm in between a rock and a hard place.
Right.
Where you look at the alphas, where it's just like kind of like an earplug and it sits into the top of your ear.
Right.
It'd be a lot more suited to say my build.
Oh boys.
So you're saying, so Phil, you're saying that your ears are too loose and Bobby's ears are too tight?
Yeah.
I can tell there's going to be some good hashtags coming out on Monday for this episode.
Yeah.
Good one.
Oh man.
There's going to be some Scott, I did want to ask you this question, and I'm sure you know the answer because you're a pretty smart dude. But on the website, it said that I got to try and think of the exact way it was worded, but it was somewhere along the lines of, if you suffer from hearing damage, you're 3 times more likely to have dementia and Alzheimer's. Like that's a crazy, is a crazy stat.
So there's also, and we don't put this on the website either because, do you guys know what tinnitus is?
Yeah, I have tinnitus.
I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what that is basically you've experienced hearing loss at a certain frequency range, and the brain is trying to stimulate that nerve with that sound, that ringing, right? It's trying to see if something. Okay. And once it hears that nerve is stimulated, it just continues to make that. There is a direct connection between suicide and tinnitus because it can actually get so severe that it, with sounding bad, but it can drive you crazy.
Yeah. So make you mad. Yeah.
That we don't think about with hearing, but like what they're seeing with dementia and Alzheimer's is the fact that if you can't hear, you're withdrawing yourself from conversations because you don't want to always constantly say and other stuff like that, and the brain isn't as stimulated as as much as what it normally is by the outside world, by its surroundings, things like that. So it's actually atrophying. It's retracting into itself, which is causing all these things. So there's piles and piles of data on this that it's kind of scary. I mean, but to go back to Bobby's point, we always thought we would shoot, get deaf, grow old, die. That was kind of
that's the circle of life right there.
It's the price you pay for having the experience.
That needs to be on a t-shirt ASAP.
Yeah, and now we don't trying to show that you don't need to be, like you don't. I was never, trust me, when you leave Beretta and come to a hearing technology company, like I never would have thought hearing would have been cool. Like honestly, it was one of those things where I was like, what am I doing? But then once I really dove into what we could do, it was like, whoa, this is actually really, really cool. So
these kind of sound like they're it's almost like you see back in the day when they had like hearing aids, and your grandpa would turn down the hearing aid so he couldn't hear his wife, and when you came over to visit, he'd turn it back up. This is kind of like the advancement of technology, where now, like, instead of using the hearing aid just to hear, you're using a hearing aid to block out sounds. Is that kind of what's going on there?
We're think of, like, again, just selectively picking what you want to hear and amplifying it. So, go to turkey. I see the turkey in the background. So you want to drumming, you want to hear gobbles, you want to hear hens scratching, you want to hear all the turkey sounds, but you don't want to hear the blue jay right behind you, sounding off, right? So what we did was we've isolated all the frequencies of the turkey sounds and then amplified those at let's just say 6 times, just for your guys' math. Everything else is only amplified at like 1.5. So now when that gobbler sounds off, you're able to pick them up at a couple hundred yards, but the bird behind you doesn't drive you crazy. So
you're going to get
picking the referrals are more the issue.
Yeah, you're going to get a bunch of deer hunters saying, "Can you block out those stupid squirrels?" But
I actually worked on that, and a squirrel running through the leaves, its cadence is different, so it's a different frequency range. So we actually did do that. It's blocked totally out, but it's not as loud as what the deer is.
Wow.
Let's be honest, a red squirrel makes way more noise than like a 10-point buck does.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Like, if you think for 1 second we're just a bunch of goofballs on this show, like we can be some pretty scientific rocket appliances and stuff too.
We all studied rocket appliance.
Yeah.
No, we're still a bunch of goofballs. It's our guests that make us look good.
Yeah.
6 in one, 1/16 the other.
The Rickyisms.
Oh, that's awesome. Scott, you talked about like working for Beretta and then coming over and working for Tetra. So even when you were working and listen, like when you were working with Beretta, you were the manager for shotguns. That was your life, shotguns, shooting. Like, so how much attention did you pay to hearing, before you came on to Tetra, to hearing protection, I guess?
Yeah, I was like everybody else. So, you had a set of either static molded ones or something that like when I go shoot sporting clays, you'd stick something in your ear, you pop it halfway out to listen to, somebody talking. Half the time I wouldn't get it back in. I had electronics MSAs for when I'd shoot pistol or 3-gun or something like that. But there was always something about, take a walkers or something like that, that it just amplified the wind, or it drove me crazy because I couldn't hear this. So I was that classic 40-year-old guy who was, earplug half hanging out, still taking a barrel blasting without really thinking of it, but thinking about protecting at least one ear, that was better than nothing. And when I stumbled across Tetra when I was working with an Upland film series, and literally was looking for something better, because Upland is kind of one of those, you want a lot of talking going on, you're watching the dog work, but then there's sounds that you just get tired of with the brush against your legs and all this other stuff. And so I happened to Google and stumbled across them and called them up and figured out what they did, and it was like, whoa, hold on, this is completely different than anything that I'd ever experienced, ever heard, or anything like that. And about 8 months later, a year later, I ended up working for him. So but yeah, there was a lot of shotgun stuff that I was looking to integrate as far as kinesthetically. When you're talking about Vincent Hancock, some of these other world-class shooters, they're looking for that half-second edge. And pick that. The guns evolved to a point where, specifically a shotgun, there's not a whole lot else you can do to it. I mean, it's a tube. There's a trigger mechanism. Like, I don't care what you do to those things. There are some things with forcing cones and other stuff like that, but now it's coming to the athlete in the shotgun sports to be able to figure out kind of where they can get that next level from. And so I'm on pairing kind of the two, the body reading the whether the head position was right, through the gun and other things like that. And that's when we started looking at hearing, we're looking at eyesight, we're looking at body position, using AI and other stuff like that within the gun. So,
and I think you brought up a good point there. Like, you talked about, getting that half-second edge or getting the edge on stuff. Like, people are willing to go out and get the edge with, like, what's the next RoboDuck and what's the next this and what's the next that. But like, when you can get your edge on the competition plus save your hearing, like, that's kind of worthy cause, wouldn't you say?
Well, the first time they got to hunt, specifically geese, my favorite's geese, because I'll pick up a goose at 400 or 500 yards where a guy doesn't pick it up until 100 or 200 after me, and it's like, hey, you got birds that back behind you, and they're like, nuh-uh, and it's like, just wait. And then it's like, now you hear them, they're like, oh but damn, it's like, yeah, boys, I heard. So whether it's picking up a bird, whether it's picking up the thrower arm, whatever it is, that's what you're spending your money on. Is in racing, they always said that last half pound is what cost you the most, so it's always trying to get that edge. And so hunters are always looking for an edge,
Now, say you're like my daughter who has those AirPods and she seems to lose the left side one all the goddamn time. Can you buy a replacement one side?
Yes. Yep. So, lanyard system. I was looking around my desk, see if I had a lanyard. We have a lanyard, which
I'll grab one.
If they still, if they still lose it, we sell one.
Yeah. Wow, Christ. There's headphones that like go over top here that sound way better than. Never mind. I won't get into it. She'll probably listen. Yeah, 10 years from now, she'll listen to this and be like, jerk.
So we were to go down a rabbit trail. So I was working the National Wild Turkey, the NWTF show, and had a guide. He was actually a goose guide. I think he was in Illinois or something, but he comes up to me, he says, hey man, can I only buy one? And I've heard every joke. My license plate says "huh" on it. I mean, I've heard it all, right? And I'm like, no buddy, they're sold in pairs. And he's like, well, I only have one. And I'm thinking, I've had 100 people tell me, well, my left ear's the worst, so can I just buy one? I was like, no, they're sold in pairs. And he turns his head and he literally has no ear. Like, I mean, there was nothing. And it was one of those like, whoopsie, like, my bad. Yeah, I'll sell you one.
Yeah, I'll sell you just one. Yeah.
Give him the half price, of course.
Somebody failed sensitivity training.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying I'm very good at being politically correct, but it was one.
That's awesome.
Well, in fairness, if someone approaches you and needs just a right,
I look now to the other side of their head and make sure.
What did we learn today? What did we learn?
Yeah.
I did want to talk about something. So, and Bobby, you and I talked about this the other day, and it come up. So I don't know if you've seen it, Scott, but Bobby done a video the other day on the 20 gauge, right? So we were chatting about it the other day, and I can't remember how it went, Bobby, but we had talked about something, and you had made this point where it's still coming at a gun at the same speed.
Well, so the point I was trying to make in the video is, one, steel shot shells exponentially better than 20 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
The better components, the shots better, just shot shells are just so much better.
Mm-hmm.
The guns are better. I mean, you can argue that, but the guns are better. They don't make these things worse over time, right?
Yeah.
So the pellet comes out the same speed with the same energy. It doesn't matter if a number 3 pellet comes out of a 12 gauge, 20 gauge, or 28 gauge. So there's no difference in I guess you call that power. There's just a little less payload, but man, they pattern so good now. So the point I was trying to get across on the video was I wouldn't worry about what size gauge as opposed to how the gun fits. So I'm 5'7". I weigh 190 pounds. I'm stocky. I've got little short T-Rex arms. So the 20 gauge just fits better. That's why I started shooting it. If 12 did, I'd shoot that. I don't care. Like Scott shoots a giant gun, but it fits him better. Yeah.
I shoot a 30-inch A400. And the reason being is you're going to laugh if you ever see me in person because my body doesn't convey this. But I was a long jumper in college, a D1 athlete. So I have very fast. Yeah, it's a long time ago. But yeah, so I have,
back in the day.
He's saying that like, are you sure?
Yeah. And everybody's like, you know. Yeah. But so when I gauge, like I use it more in like Bobby and I were talking about this earlier today, like more of a reaction style shot because I'm very fast, I'm very quick, I'm twitchy with it. And so when it comes to open field hunting or anything like that, I can't get the gun to swing the way that I want to. So for me, I went to a 30-inch barrel. I've got a heavier gun, but I swing it so much better because it just gives me that time to really engage my major muscles and swing through better. So it's really, again, go back to Bobby's point, fit. Like if they made a 9-pound 20 gauge, I'd shoot 20 gauge. Like I don't care, but it was what I shoot the best. And so I think people get hung up on shells, they get hung up on chokes, when really they need to understand that between the shooter, the shell, and the gun, it's an entire system. It's an entire component that goes together to kill, or to break the bird, the target.
The amount of messages I get over, are you shooting honkers with a 20 gauge? Are you shooting bismuth? And what choke is in the gun? And my reply is, it's whatever Rogers had that was the cheapest this year. Shells, and it has the factory extended modified in it. That's it.
Yeah,
it's all it is.
Scott,
pattern's great.
Can you, and I don't want to sound like an asshole here, but like, can you dumb this down? Because we hear it too, right? We hear, 20 gauge is all right on small birds. But you're not gonna knock down these giant Canadas with a 20 gauge. And I can't, like when I say the kinetic energy is the same coming out of the gun, but that doesn't compute with some people. And I don't have the knowledge to dumb it down anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Sure. So basically, again, 20 gauge and 12 gauge, we're talking payload, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at speeds, it's just simply the number of pellets. The number of pellets transitions to the pattern. So again, this is Bobby and I talk about this all the time too. Guys don't actually pattern their gun. They grab it, they to their shoulder, they pull the trigger one time and they say, yep, looks pretty good. And really what that is everybody thinks it's chokes and everybody thinks it's shot size. And it's not. It comes down to barrel construction. And then when you start to look at how that pattern reacts. So if you have, let's say number 3 or number 2, for example, and you have a longer forcing cone gun, which a forcing cone is the taper inside the shotgun barrel. The longer the barrel, or the longer the forcing cone inside the barrel, the less you have deformation of those pellets. Even in steel, you're going to get flattening, right? Because there's a tremendous amount of friction that happens even inside that wad as it goes down the barrel. What that is called the Magnus Effect. So when you flatten the side of a circle, the air moves faster over one side than it does over the other. So it creates spin and it pulls the pattern out. Halos, blows the center out, whatever term you guys want to throw on it. But if you look at a pattern and it's very heavy on a ring, that means you're blowing the centers out of your patterns because of the Magnus Effect. So if you drop down either a size in your shot size, or you go to a different material that doesn't quite react that way, you'll be fine. Over choking it won't take that away from it because the kinetic energy is actually happening after you've got from the choke to the bird. Right. So that's where the happens. So a modified choke, I shoot everything modified. I don't care if it's right in my face or 60 yards away. Mod it is. because it just patterns great. It patterns on every shell size. But when you're talking, go back to what you said, kinetic energy, more pellets on target. Each one of those pellets is producing about 5 pounds of energy. That bird doesn't weigh that much, so if you take let's say you got a huge honker, 15 pounds, 3 pellets is taking its own body weight and slamming it into it at 1,200 feet per second. It's going to die. So hit 6 or 8 pellets in instead of 2, less cripples. Doesn't matter if it's 20 gauge, doesn't matter if it's 12 gauge, doesn't matter if it's 28 gauge. You're going to be able to kill them as long as you get enough pellets into that bird. Period.
Okay. So you talked about forcing cone.
No,
there's a lot
good.
there.
Yeah, that's
there's
good.
a lot there. I'm out hunting and I'm with Phil in his boat and I got my A400. Accidentally drop it in the lake. Go to the gun shop. They have the exact same model there. I need to repattern that gun, right? I can't just go out and be like,
oh, they're all different.
No,
no. So
yeah.
Keep in mind, a barrel starts. So being at the Bretter factory, I got to see it. So every barrel starts as a piece of carbon steel that's solid. Okay. It's not even a tube. They cut it down, they drill it. All right. Then they put it on this is in Beretta, and Beretta makes a lot of very good guns. So I'm going to guess that a lot of other manufacturers do the same thing. Then they put it in a mandrel and they actually cold hammer forge it out. All right. So it's hammered in about 90 seconds from 22 inches to 30 inches. So it beats that steel out. So it's putting that steel under pressure, under tension, all kinds of molecular things that are happening. Every piece of steel is different. So whether it's my gun and your gun or the new one that you pick up, they're going to perform differently, microscopically. But that's the difference between high and right, whatever it is. There's a parameter that a gun has to stay within, but that parameter doesn't mean that your pattern isn't going to be heavier to the high and left than it is to center right, or whatever.
Yeah.
So every pattern, every choke, every shell, if you change brands or change shot sizes, you need to at least get a couple of shots on the patterning board.
Yeah. No, it's just better when we have I could tell people that till I'm blue in the face and they're going to be like, you're just some idiot that tells jokes on a podcast. But that's why we get you guys, the experts, on here, right?
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
So I've always been amazed because for me, you'll hear me talk constantly about forcing cones. And I am a huge believer in a longer forcing cone gun is a better patterning gun because you're creating less. Like if you think of, a 3-inch forcing cone versus an 18-inch forcing cone, or in my extreme plus a 14-inch, if that was a highway and you were going from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes, and if you were doing it in 3/4 of a mile versus 3 miles, the traffic backup, the accidents, all those things, the exterior pressures on those outside lanes is going to completely. So same thing with those pellets. If I can allow those pellets to settle in, I'm going to get a better pattern. I'm going to get a harder hitting pattern. I'm going to crush birds, even if I'm shooting, what people consider to be inferior loads, which I don't think they are anymore. A steel number 4 is going to rock a goose's world if you can get enough pellets into them. I mean, that's just all there is to it.
I used to shoot competitive trap, and I shoot an old Remington 870 trap model, but it's the one that's got the entire barrel is the taper. Best patterning gun I've ever played with.
And that's where, there's only so much that the factory can do building these guns. And that's where Rob Roberts?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob Roberts, he does all that stuff to your gun to change.
He's taking in a Benelli, you're taking a 3-inch forcing cone and he's just lengthening out. It's the same. Beretta does it from the factory. He does it aftermarket. But that's what all it's doing is creating less Magnus Effect, less cross tension, so that the pellets aren't trying to spread out as it goes.
He's essentially doing what they've done to clay guns for a long time. Yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking the guy. He does great. But essentially that's been in the clay world forever. Yeah, you tune in a shotgun.
And I'm sure there's other guys out there. It's just that was the one that I remembered. So
he is by far the most popular.
Yeah.
He's one. So, but like porting and all the other things that you'll hear guys talk about doing, it doesn't do anything as far as patterning. There's only a couple of things that affect it, and the choke can negatively affect it. But again, you're creating so much pressure before it ever gets to the choke, the choke is just kind of like a little cherry on top. I mean, it's, my favorite is guys will be like, what chokes you shoot? I'm like, factory. What? Have you tried this? Have you tried Indian Creek? Have you tried Pat? Like, boys.
Yeah.
I'm like, I bet whatever the extended tubes are, Benelli gives you with the gun now are legit.
Yep.
Like they're as good as any aftermarket tube I've ever had.
Yep.
Yeah.
Back in the day that I would have grieved that, chokes were loose and things like that. And when kicks and other ones, Patternmaster first came out, yes, I agree that they did have an effect because the guns weren't designed around the load and the load was still catching up. When we transitioned from 10 gauges to 12 gauge, 3.5, like there was a huge technology gap that the chokes did help, but now we've superseded that.
It's awesome.
The only difference I ever see on the 20s to the 12s on honkers, if it's super windy, I mean like 40 miles an hour, like one of those sustained 40-mile-an-hour days, the third shot is getting a little bit light because you just don't have as many pellets. But I don't particularly like the 12 gauges going off on that third shot because you end up chasing that damn goose around forever. I'd rather you just took the 2 and waited on the next bunch.
You got to get a dog, Bobby.
We have a dog. Yeah. We have a lot of wind in Kansas. I don't know what it's like up on you guys, but we can get 40, 50-mile-an-hour days. Yeah, I mean, they leave the hole pretty quick when they're doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Scott, so now, Beretta, Tetra, I was looking at the Tetra website today, and you've got an option there, and I gotta throw this out there against Tetra, and I'm sure you're probably gonna make a note of it. But when we go and look for an audiologist, is that right? Audiologist, yeah. In Canada, nothing comes up.
We haven't figured out that market yet. Like we're still trying to get the US under control first.
Well, and I'm joking about it because we deal with it every day. Like if we looked at some of our buddies and said, yeah, boys, we got to start wearing hearing protection. And it's going to cost X number of dollars. Oh, crazy. I'm not paying that. And when you think about it, this is your hearing. Like, and trust me, I get it. To anybody that's listening, I understand the price tag and the whole bit. But when you really think about it, it's your hearing. Like, if you lose it, you can't get it back. That's the thing. Like, it's gone. It's gone.
When you're 20 years old, you don't think about your
you're bulletproof. You're bulletproof at 20, right?
Yeah, but you're not thinking about your grandkids saying like, Grandpa, are those ducks? You're not thinking of that, right?
Right.
Meh.
It's also, you think about it this way, it's the price of a good gun.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
How many guys will get a new gun that creates the hearing loss, but will gladly pay $1,500 for it? And
you know what? You got like, oh, sorry.
So.
Sorry.
This year it's the price of 2 dozen geese decoys.
Full bodies. Yeah, big time.
I was about to say, when you say it's like the same price as a new gun, you've got like half the people going, that's not a bad price, and then the other half are going, shit, I should just buy a new gun then. That's the way things are now. So
yeah. But it's very true. Like if you compare it, if you say it like that, so it's comparable to the cost of a new gun. I have the same thing when people talk about dogs, right? So a dog comes up for sale and they're like, oh, that's crazy amount of money to pay for a dog. And I'm like, the dog does all the work for you. Like,
the dog's also a 10-year investment.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, I could never understand. And that goes the same with the gun. So, and Phil, so we're putting Phil on the spot here. Phil buys lots of guns.
1 or 2.
Right? So
mostly Benelli's.
I had to get that in there, right? But you buy your guns, but yet how many fellas are out there, girls, that say the same thing. Well, I'm going to buy a new gun this year. Well, here we need hearing protection. Well, I'm not spending that kind of money on hearing protection. I got to go buy a new gun.
Yep. And we get that all every time I'm talking to somebody, that always comes up. And my response is when you actually understand the technology and what it does, it's like a Ferrari. A Ferrari salesman never apologized for the price of it. No. And I would rather you save up to buy a Tetra than to offer a low cost, I don't want to say garbage, but something that's an inferior product. I would rather keep my stuff high and say, look, this is worth it by the technology that's involved in it. It's gonna create a long-term, lifelong product for you that's going to benefit your life long term, that I would just say, oh, you're right, here's a 10% discount, because that devalues everything that we're trying to do. Like that's not the way we are. So I get it all.
It makes a ton of sense to me. Like I understand it. And the thing is if you say, well, okay, I'm not going to do it with Tetra, but I'll go buy brand X that's a fair amount cheaper, what you could afford. Well, then chances are you're not going to be as comfortable and you're not going to have the effect that you want. And then you're going to end up doing what all of us do with it half it of our ear, just so that we can do it. And then you just dumped a pile of money and you're still going to end up with hearing loss. That's the way.
I've had so many conversations and it makes me laugh, because guys will say, I bought a $150 set, and then I bought a $300 set, and then I bought a $500 set, and now I'm talking to Tetra. And I'm like, if you'd have added it up and bought ours to be, you just saved $100. And they're like, I know, but that's after the fact. So.
And it's not like it's something that you can sell used either, right? Like,
well, and that's where so Tetra kind of came. It was really interesting because we heard all this stuff, right? And if you buy a Tetra, so let's say you buy, the lower level product right now, and in 2 years from now you want to upgrade, we'll give you the full retail value towards it on a trade-in. So you literally send me the price difference on your old devices and I'll send you the new ones. Wow. So it was our way of saying, we know these things you're not going to get anything on eBay for them. You're not going to, who wants your custom programmed? Yeah. So this allows us to stay, we want something in your ear. I mean, a finger works really great if you want to, just stop the noise. So I'd rather you have something, put a phone, do something until you can get saved up. I mean, everybody works on a budget, or buy what you can and then continue to upgrade because you're not losing anything. So we tried to understand that, sportsmen, we're not all rich. I mean, I live on a hunting budget, and sometimes I got to sell stuff to make that budget bigger.
Big time.
I didn't know that, and I was trying to make a joke about dirty ears, and here you are. I put that on a tee for you to smack. Wow, great.
No, we get it all the time, and I'm just like, I know where this is going.
Yes.
So.
No, and I think I think that's the right attitude to have. Obviously, you guys know what you're doing, but that is the right attitude to have. Like, why would you apologize for your price? Just like you said, a Ferrari said, listen, if you're walking into a Ferrari shop, you're paying.
Yeah, well, you know what you're getting.
Yeah,
like that's the thing is, like, that if you're looking at something with that kind of price tag, then there should be an expectation that goes with it. And our job, that expectations, above that. Like if you go buy a $30,000 shotgun, I've got pretty high expectations for it. Like, there's something that's going to make it better than a $3,000.
Well, and like driving a Ferrari down the 401, you could have a Fiero that looks kind of like it, but it's not going to be the same, right? So don't get that Fiero with the body kit. Get the real shit, right? Because then you'll end up buying you'll end up buying like the shitty ones and then upgrade. And I just made that mistake recently. Correct. So,
Scott, let's talk about Lake St. Clair, buddy. Tell us about some hunting on Lake St. Clair.
Canadian side or American side?
American side. I go out of Anchor Bay. What do you want? I mean, it's St. Clair. I mean, between
I know,
St. Clair,
but people that.
Dude, It is terrible hunting. Nobody should go there.
Yeah.
Up there, I mean, there isn't a smallmouth bass in the lake, so don't go up there for fish. Don't go up there for ducks. Specifically divers, but I mean, don't go up there for anything really. It's pretty ugly. So no, it's one of my favorite lakes. Just to be on, because water clarity, it's one of the cleanest lakes. One of the things I read that it empties every 29 days and refills. Like, I mean, just to have that much water moving through there, the birds love it. You up in the grass, you get offshore, whatever you want to do. I mean, it's the only place I've ever killed a ringneck with the barrel. I didn't even fire a shot. I just reached up and whacked him, and it was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. So
that is pretty cool.
I always want to reach up and grab one, but I haven't got the barrel, but I haven't got him yet. So.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I got to I've hunted Erie. I haven't hunted Lake St. Clair yet. Planning on doing that this fall. But I've got to get that can because I've yet to get my can. And it's got to happen this year. Got to.
The cans that my favorite part about the Lake Erie, St. Clair, kind of that, even towards Niagara, you'll get those bright white ones. So they're not dirty. I mean, they're glow in the dark white. And when you see those coming, like, I don't care who shot it is, I mean, it's one of those where we're fighting over whoever's going to take that herd. So it's in Sandusky Bay, which is on Lake Erie. There's one that's really cool. Kind of between Ottawa and at the end of Muddy Creek, but they have a flyover and there was 4 million mallards rafting with about 2 million black ducks. And when you see that kind of stuff with cans and everything else, it's pretty wild.
And then when you see them first thing in the morning and they lift up to go feed.
Yes.
Holy shit. We got a video of it. It just, you forget to shoot because you're going, holy shit, what is this? Like, it was pretty insane. Like
I hunted St. Clair several years ago. Was privileged to shoot this bird, and I saw 250,000 ducks.
Yeah,
yep.
We had 1 year. It's probably been 10 years ago when I lived on the lake. So I was fortunate enough to live actually right across the road, so there was no houses between me and the lake. And went down to the pier one time, and the mergansers had come in. And I know we all can make fun of them, whatever you want, but it literally darkened the horizon when they lifted. And I mean, when you're talking about being able to see, miles around Lake Erie, and it looked like clouds lifting, and I was just like, holy frick, that's a lot of birds. I mean,
that's insane.
I thought you were going to say that even the mergansers taste better on Lake St. Clair.
They're just, I mean,
magical place.
They're all targets, so I mean, I'm not going to lie. But
hey, it flies, it dies.
Yeah. But it's just it's one of those places to go up there and fish it, to go up there and hunt it. I feel like everybody should just make the trip one time to Erie and St. Clair, because it's just two completely different, even though they're attached, two completely different lakes. But just once you experience it, it's pretty. And don't get me wrong, when they get rough.
Oh yeah.
You get
we were on Erie a couple years ago. Phil was with me, and so there's a spot. It was a nice ways out into the lake. And we knew that's where all the birds were rafting up, but it was calling for some big wind the next morning. And as we were making the plan, the boys were like, yeah, we're going out to this place called Pottahawk. And I was like, no, nobody is going out there, because nobody's got a boat that can stand up to that kind of wind, right? Because we're all in duck boats or whatever like this. And this one guy goes, no, I'm good. I'm like, buddy, I don't know what your history is. I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up on the water. Trust me, you're not going out. Anyways, so nobody went out, and we had three boats from guys capsized that morning. Hey, Phil, remember that? They just, waves came in over.
Yeah,
it was insane. And fellas were like, oh no, we're still going. Like guys going out in tinners. I'm like,
yeah, it was a few boys got yanked out of the water. Like even like that morning, that hunt was that moment where I was like glad I bought like the 1800 Alaskan. Like even like coming back from where we were to the ramp, like I was like feathering the throttle because like they're 3 and 4 foot rollers. We got 4 guys in the boat, 10 dozen decoys, and I literally just plowed through, and I'm like, "Fuck you," and just ate it, and was like, "I am glad I bought a boat this size at that point." And knew well enough not to the big water.
Well, one of the craziest
why his ears are so loose.
storm that I'd ever seen. Coast Guard had actually
Zing.
Sorry, Scott.
No, go ahead. What you got?
No, that's Dave. Dave just threw out a little zing on Phil. That's all.
Yeah, I didn't even hear what he said.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
Just because
it's irrelevant.
It's okay.
But we got to get back. We're trying to get Bobby up here.
Yeah, Bobby needs to. You know what, Bobby? How about this, Bobby? We're gonna hunt Lake St. Clair, Mitchell's Bay. You should come up for that.
I know. I'll be honest. I have not made it to Canada yet to hunt.
I know.
End of November. We'll see you then.
Yeah. My problem with it is you all hunt when I'm in the peak of selling duck calls.
It's the end of season. Unless you're doing an end of season sale, come on up.
Oh, it's in January?
Yeah, we could do that
December.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
So my peak is basically now through December 15th.
Mm-hmm.
So come up December 16th.
See you December 16th then.
Yeah.
So then after December 15th, I pretty much hunt every day until the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks. I only get 3 or 4 days a weekend from October 25th.
Yeah, like you went off the grid last year. Like there was a time. There was a time, remember, Dave? I was like, I think Bobby's mad at me. He's not even answering my messages. Not
Damien called me crying.
So
I was in tears.
Scott's been down with me. We hunt in an area of Kansas that is just wide open. Like it's just cattle ponds.
Yeah.
So, man, we may scout from 9 in the morning after we hunt until dark, like every day. So it puts me home hour or 2 after dark. So I mean that's my day most of the time. Yeah, I don't know about this year with $4 fuel, but yeah. But man, the amount of content that I have to get anymore to feed everything is just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I took 5,000 usable photos last season, and I still don't have enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, if you put 4 photos a day on the story, you do a post every 3 days, plus website content, plus email content. It's so much content. It's crazy.
Do you know how many people just reuse the content? Just delete it and put it up 2 more weeks from now, right?
Yeah, I don't do that.
I'm just saying people do.
I know. I don't. Yeah, or if I do, it's an accident. Yeah, I just forgot to use it.
And Bobby won't use his phone to take pictures either.
No. It is only off the big camera.
Or you can just pay for followers.
You could just pay for followers, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But,
I wish you guys could have been on the phone call yesterday when Bobby's telling me about these cameras, and he's like, "Oh, here's a website, here's a good camera," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's a good one." I got no money, Bobby. I'm It was
awesome. New shotgun. That's the new shotgun.
But it was funny because the other day, so we were talking about cameras like yesterday, but then last week he's geeking out over this lens he's got, right? Like he's got this new lens, and he's
fucking huge.
And he's showing me this lens, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. It's a lens. I know nothing about cameras, right? And he's like, yeah, but it's this and this. And I'm like, Bobby, buddy, you could have made up any number and told me, and I would have been just as impressed. So then he tells me all about the aperture and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting. This is not going to be a photographer.
Maybe you need to start an OnlyFans.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Why?
Buy some camera gear.
How do you think Phil got his?
Right?
Yeah, but
welcome to the 21st fucking century.
Phil's got a bunch of weird people that just dig his toes. That's it.
Whatever. Hey, buddy, $20 is $20.
Yeah, fair.
I will say the worst thing with Bobby is when you get on his group, his messenger, when he starts geeking out on the camera stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Again, I'm a photographer. So there's like 3 photographers and about 2 or 3 of us that aren't. And all of a sudden it's just like ping, ping, ping. It's like,
and I don't care.
So they're just completely geeked out over it. So
one of the guys that I hunt with, he loves to take pictures of birds in the air, which is not my thing. I mostly take pictures of people, and he brings these giant lenses out, so I'm always sending him pics of the big harnesses with the lens, and
The camera.
He had that out last year. He's got some little gyro that holds his cell phone that follows him now. It's ridiculous.
But I've heard you say, Bobby, that I've heard you say it a couple times that a camera will ruin a hunt.
The video camera will.
A video camera, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to ruin a hunt, you get a video camera out. Yeah. It is basically a flashlight shining at the birds.
Yeah.
Video and hunts, it's hard to capture a hunt. It's hard to capture a hunt as it would be without the camera, with the camera.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. Yeah, because you're basically seeing if they'll tolerate it that day.
Right.
Yeah, because you can kind of hide the camera. You can get good at hiding the camera, but it's still there.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's what happened to our snow goose hunt.
Yeah.
I was trying to film the whole damn thing. We had one bird come in.
Yeah. on a snow goose feed. One bird.
Yeah.
One bird.
Well, I can tell you this: if you're watching a 23-minute, however many seconds they are episode, they filmed a lot to get that episode.
Oh yeah.
Scott's filmed a lot. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, the amount of that's going to be another rabbit hole that perhaps we don't want to get into right yet. But that the amount of content that you have to record to put off that 20-minute banger episode like that, it has to be insane.
What I figured out, being on the backside of the industry, with providing the guns for some of those hunts and clothes and other stuff like that, it was fascinating to be there and seeing like all these little B-roll grabs and like all these other things that they put into that 23-minute. And then I'd watch the film and I'd be like, dude, I don't even remember any of that. Like I was there,
Really?
By the time that they edit it all together and you do all your, clothes changes and all this other stuff, then you're like, dude, that doesn't seem like anything like what we did. And then when you go back and watch it, you're like, that looked awesome. I wish I'd have been there. Like, oh,
that's kind of the thing when you film a hunt. If the camera guy is good, and the editor, they can make a mediocre hunt look really good. But if the camera guy and the editor aren't good, they can make a really good hunt look poor.
Film's always different because it's always from a different perspective that you never saw it from. It's a different angle, it's a different shot, it's different, like everything. So
I know Ryan, you missed out, and you said that you were pretty bummed out that you missed out on Heartland Waterfowl last week when we recorded it. But Bobby, I'm still impressed, and I watched some more videos there the other day. I'm still impressed that they're out in the morning, and then that 8-10 minutes, 15-minute video
YouTube series they have is phenomenal for what
that's recorded in the morning and uploaded in the evening.
Yeah,
like Dakota that's insane.
Physically edits that back at the hotel room and then puts it up.
Insane. And it's quality, like it's good.
Oh, no, it's good. Yeah. Oh no, it's good. Like it's good. I mean, it could be a show.
Yeah.
Like
what was it you said, Ryan? You said probably the best waterfowl content out there right now is Heartland, eh?
Yeah, they're up there. I used to watch I don't know if they're associated. I used to watch Heartland
Bow Hunter.
The deer, the bow hunter, the whitetail deer series. Yeah. And it was awesome. And I was like, man, I would watch it and like, man, I wish somebody would do this for waterfowling. And then they came out like literally the next year.
Sounds like you didn't listen to our episode.
I didn't. Shut up, Dave. I'm building a deck.
Oh man, I've been out filming with those guys. The amount of content they grab to put that stuff on is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Fellas, we're at around that 60-minute mark. So I think we'll end her there. But I think as usual, we could keep going and just keep this banter going. Scott, buddy, thanks so much for doing this and coming on and telling us, about Tetra, telling us about Beretta and everything else that you did. Bobby, again, buddy, thank you for facilitating and helping us out here. But we'll go around the table. We'll get you guys to have you guys can have a last word. But Philly, to you, buddy.
Absolute pleasure to have you going. Yeah, Bobby, you've been on several times, and it's always a pleasure to have you here and talk ducks and guns and 20 gauges. Scott, the wealth of knowledge you've brought forward in regards to shot strings and shooting and barrels and hearing protection, this is one of those episodes that people seriously need to listen to, especially as myself, someone who's suffered hearing damage. Like, this is an absolute eye-opener. Look after those ears. You only got one set, and once they're done, they're done. So thank you.
Philly, I got to ask you though now, and I can't believe I didn't do this earlier, but like at your job, are you told to wear hearing protection at work?
No.
Like, how does that work?
I just walk around and talk to people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just walk around and talk to people that there's no hearing protection required. I wish I could wear hearing protection because I wouldn't have to listen to half these fucking retards, but
there you go. Oops. There he did. He just dropped it, everybody. He just dropped it. Yeah. Ryan, to
wins.
You.
Damien got him to say it first.
Yeah. Ryan, to you, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks for coming back on, Bobby. I really wish I would have been there for last week, but I had some issues going. So, and Scott, man, thanks. I was quiet for most of the episode because I was just kind of forgot what I was doing. I was just listening and engaged and being educated. So appreciate your time and all your knowledge, and hopefully you can come back on a later date.
Thank you. We appreciate being on.
Dave?
Yeah, gents, thanks for both coming on. And just like they were saying, like, it was an episode that we were going to talk about hearing protection and stuff like that. And then it just evolved into now people know about guns and stuff. So it's good to have the experts on, and hopefully we get to talk to you some more. Thanks, boys.
No problem.
Bobby?
If you want more of this, and I normally don't push what I'm doing on here, but I
You
throw
should.
videos up that are informational. They're not there to sell anything. I've duck hunted a long time, so they're just my experiences with different equipment. You can keep in mind, I do things with just a few companies, so most of the products that I'm telling you about are just what I use. So I don't really have an opinion that's for sale.
Okay.
I don't use it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bobby. I'm going to cut you off there.
You're good, buddy.
Guys, there's something to learn from going to the Ducklander page and listening to some of the stuff Bobby said. Like, I think it was today. I saw it today, that feed.
Yeah.
And the second you were talking about, like, put more pressure into it, I'm like, motherfucker. And I went and grabbed my fuse, and I was like, that son of a bitch. I wish I talked to him 2 years ago.
That's
like,
son of a
guys,
bitch.
listen, like, take the time and just listen to his Instagram videos. Follow.
I think Bobby knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he does, but I've never thought, like, I'm like, man, that guy can feed. He must have been calling for a lot of time. And then he says that one fucking sentence, and I'm like, that's interesting. I should have asked.
To be honest, that's one of the really cool things about doing calling lessons is teaching gets you to learn it better. So so like the more people I teach, the better you get at it. So it's a cool side effect because it makes you think of it in ways you don't think of it.
And some of the concepts and stuff, like when you're talking about the 20 gauge and becoming better shooters and stuff like that, like it's good quality content. So go give Bobby a listen. And
I said that video you put out the other day about the 20 gauges, Bobby, like, that is the truth.
Right.
Like, people just don't know.
They don't know. And to be honest, I can't. It's kind of why I started doing it. I can't find a source where you can go get the info.
No.
And
like, I don't see it.
Yeah.
So maybe it's out there and I just don't see it because I'll be honest, like, I don't comb social for things, and YouTube is just a giant cluster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody, he is pretty humble and he doesn't plug his stuff when he comes on the show, but please go check out the Ducklander Instagram and Facebook page and the website. Get in on the email list, the Duck Tribe and all that stuff, and you'll get all this information sent to you. And I promise you, it'll make you better. I promise you that. Scott,
and you'll get to see 5,000 different pictures, not the same one.
Right. Scott, to you, buddy.
Hey, I thank you guys for having me on. Yeah, I was glad to get to talk about Tetra, but I really love this format, like Bobby was saying, educational, where, you know, I've done podcasts where it's just kind of like a sales pitch, and I didn't want that. And this was a lot of fun to meet you guys, to kind of be able to share some experiences, be able to talk shotguns and hearing protection, which is two of my favorite things, and then to be able to support Bobby. I mean, Bobby makes some of the best calls that I've ever blown, and just one of the best. I mean, just like you said, the knowledge that he has. Every time, you know, we joke around a lot that I need to learn how to blow a spec call, and he's like, "Give me 10 minutes and I'll teach you." You know, we don't have spec, so. But just to be able to be in the industry with these great guys, with you guys and with him and things, I really do appreciate you having me on. So thank you.
No, absolutely, buddy. And you've got an open invite to come on. So don't wait for us to call you. If you want to come on and you want to talk about something, fire us a message and we'll get you on. I promise you that. So I can't thank you enough. Bobby, I can't thank you. You're a great friend to us, buddy. Ladies and gentlemen, this was 107. As you can tell, we're not experts. We'll never pretend to be experts. We are exactly as advertised, a bunch of friends that love hanging out and talking about shooting ducks. Until next time, big love, and see you next time.